Dragon, Spacex. Successful leak checks. Dragon has initiated cabin venting. Venting complete. Stand by for GNC config and hatch open. Dragon, SpaceX. SpaceX is go for EVA operations. Chute flow initiated. Stand by for Dragon venting sequence. SpaceX is go for EVA operations.
Attention all operators on countdown 1. This is the final go, no go for flight 2 of Starship. Again, our T0 is at 7 a.m. Central. Raptor 1.
Go.
Raptor 2.
Go.
Stage 1.
Go.
Stage 2.
Go.
Copy, go for flight. Clock is rolling. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff.
Boost Ranger cut on. Stage separation.
Attention all operators on countdown 1. We're going to start our go, no go poll for today's flight. Raptor 1.
Go.
Raptor 2.
Go.
Stage 1.
Good morning. On your screen is Starship as it awaits our first ever integrated flight test from Starbase Texas.
Flight directors go for flight. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Ignition. 2, 1. We have liftoff.
Starship vehicle, tower clear, we're into pitch over. Onboard view from Starship. What a sight, we're flying at twice the thrust of the Saturn V heading to space.
Next cue. That's another engine.
And there, as you saw, as we promised, an exciting end to the Starship inaugural integrated test flight.
You know, it feels great to be a part of this transition from a test program, a demonstration program, to an operational program.
After NASA certified Crew Dragon, Crew 1 is the first mission to the International Space Station. I feel very honored to be a part of this great mission.
When we're sitting on the launch pad, I think what's going to be going through my mind is I want to be in the moment and enjoy the experience.
There is just an electricity in the air as that countdown is happening. The engines light and liftoff occurs.
3, 2, 1. Ignition. Liftoff.
Vehicles pitching downrange. Falcon 9 is supersonic.
Stage separation confirmed.
Dragon separation confirmed.
Dragon SpaceX trajectory nominal.
It's really hard to explain living and working in zero-G. It's fascinating how normal it becomes. It just feels like you've done it your whole life.
The only purpose of every spacecraft is to bring astronauts to space and bring them back safe.
You know, sometimes you have to leave something to understand how special it is. Getting the opportunity to go to space kind of gives you that same feeling about our home planet.
We have liftoff.
spacecraft is go for flight. It's a pleasure for me as President of the International Astronautical Federation to welcome all you today to the concluding session of the Global Networking Forum for this ISC 2017, which has been a huge success. In particular, I want to thank Premier Wazaril, Minister Hamilton Smith, and Lord Mayor Hayes for their support and presence. Now, let me please introduce our distinguished speaker for today. Elon Musk is founder, CEO, and lead designer of SpaceX. Elon founded SpaceX in 2002 with the goal of revolutionizing space technology and ultimately enabling humans to become a multiplanetary species. Today, he will provide an update on those plans first shared at ISC 2016 in Guadalajara last year. SpaceX has had a number of firsts, including the first private company to deliver cargo to and from the International Space Station, the first entity to land an orbital class booster back on land and on drone ships out of sea, and the first to refly an orbital class booster. In addition to SpaceX, he's also the CEO of Tesla Motors and chairman of SolarCity. Please join me in welcoming Elon Musk.
All right, hey. Thank you. Oh, it's just so good. All right, so welcome everyone. I'm going to talk more about what it takes to become a multi-planet species. And just a brief refresher on why this is important. I think fundamentally, the future is vastly more exciting and interesting if we're a spacefaring civilization and a multi-planet species than if we're not. You want to be inspired by things. You want to wake up in the morning and think the future is going to be great. And that's what being a spacefaring civilization is all about. It's about believing in the future and thinking that the future will be better than the past. And I can't think of anything more exciting than going out there and being among the stars. That's why. So let me go into more detail on becoming a multi-planet species. This is the updated design for we're sort of searching for the right name, but the code name at least is BFR. Probably the most important thing that I want to convey in this presentation is that I think we have figured out how to pay for it. This is very important. So, in last year's presentation, we're really searching for what the right way, how do we pay for this thing? We went through various ideas, Kickstarter, collecting underpants. These didn't pan out. But now we think we've got a way to do it, which is to have a smaller vehicle, still pretty big, but one that can serve, one that can do everything that's needed in the greater Earth.
Dragon, Spacex, successfully checks. Dragon has initiated cabin venting. Venting complete. Stand by for GNC config and hatch open. Dragon, SpaceX. SpaceX is go for EVA operations. Chute flow initiated. Stand by for Dragon venting sequence. SpaceX is go for EVA operations.
Attention all operators on countdown 1. This is the final go, no go for flight 2 of Starship. Again, our T0 is at 7 a.m. Central. Raptor 1.
Go.
Raptor 2.
Go.
Stage 1.
Go.
Stage 2.
Go.
Copy, go for flight. Clock is rolling. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff.
Booster engine cut on. Stage separation.
Attention all operators on countdown 1. We are going to start our go-no-go poll for today's flight. Raptor 1.
Go.
Raptor 2.
Go.
Stage 1.
Go.
Good morning. On your screen is Starship as it awaits our first ever integrated flight test from Starbase, Texas.
Flight directors go for flight. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Ignition. 2. We have liftoff.
Starship vehicle. Tower clear. We're into pitch over. Onboard view from Starship. What a sight. We're flying at twice the thrust of the Saturn V heading to space.
Execute. There's another engine.
And there, as you saw, as we promised, an exciting end to the Starship inaugural integrated test flight.
You know, it feels great to be a part of this transition from a test program, a demonstration program, to an operational program.
After NASA certified Crew Dragon, Crew 1 is the first mission to the International Space Station. I feel very honored to be a part of this great mission.
When we're sitting on the launch pad, I think what's going to be going through my mind is I want to be in the moment and enjoy the experience.
There is just an electricity in the air as that countdown is happening. The engines light and liftoff occurs.
3, 2, 1. Ignition. Liftoff.
Vehicle is pitching downrange. Falcon 9 is supersonic.
Stage separation confirmed.
Dragon separation confirmed.
Dragon SpaceX trajectory nominal.
It's really hard to explain living and working in zero-G. It's fascinating how normal it becomes. It just feels like you've done it your whole life.
The only purpose of every spacecraft is to bring astronauts to space and bring them back safe.
You know, sometimes you have to leave something to understand how special it is. Getting the opportunity to go to space kind of gives you that same feeling about our home planet.
We have liftoff.
Spacecraft is go for flight.
but now we think we've got a way to do it, which is to have a smaller vehicle, still pretty big, but one that can serve, one that can do everything that's needed in the greater Earth orbit activity. So essentially, we want to make our current vehicles redundant. We want to have one system, one booster and ship that replaces Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy, and Dragon. So if we can do that, then all the resources that are used for Falcon 9, Heavy, and Dragon can be applied to this system. So that's really fundamental. So let's see, what progress have we made in this direction? So last time you saw the giant tank, that's actually a 12-meter tank. And you can see the relative scale of it. It's 1,000 cubic meters of volume inside. That's actually more pressurized volume than an A380, just to put that into perspective. We developed a new carbon fiber matrix that's much stronger and more capable at cryo than anything before, and it holds 1,200 tons of liquid oxygen. So we tested it. So we successfully tested it up to its design pressure, and then went a little further. So we wanted to see where it would break, and we found out where it would break. It shot about 300 feet into the air and landed in the ocean. We fished it out, and but we've now got a pretty good sense of what it takes to create a huge carbon fiber tank that can hold cryogenic liquid. That's actually extremely important for making a light spaceship. The next key element is on the engine side. We have to have an extremely efficient engine. So the Raptor engine will be the highest thrust to weight engine, we believe, of any engine of any kind ever made. We already have now 1,200 seconds of firing across 42 main engine tests. We fired it for 100 seconds. It could fire for much longer than 100 seconds. That's just the size of the test tanks. And then the duration of the firing you're seeing right now is about 40 seconds, which is the length of the firing for landing on Mars. The test engine currently operates at 200 atmospheres, or 200 bar. The flight engine will be at 250 bar, and then we believe over time we could probably get that to a little over 300 bar. The next key element is propulsive landing. So in order to land on places like the moon, where there is no atmosphere, and certainly no runways, or to land on Mars, where the atmosphere is too thin to land, even if there were runways to land with a wing, you really have to get propulsive landing perfect. So that's what we've been practicing with Falcon 9. So this is just a series of landing videos. I think these are quite mesmerizing. But we now have 16 successful landings in a row. And that's with so it's 16 in a row, and that's with really without any redundancy. So Falcon 9 lands on a single engine. The final landing is always done with a single engine, whereas BFR will always have multi-engine out capability. So if you can get to a very high reliability with even a single engine, and then you can land, and then you can land with either of two engines, I think we can get to a landing reliability that is on par with the safest commercial airliners. So you can essentially count on the landing. It's not like you want minimum pucker factor on the landing. So, and it can land with also very high precision. In fact, we believe the precision at this point is good enough for propulsive landing that we do not need legs for the next version. It will literally land with so much precision, it will land back on its launch mounts. So the launch rate is also is increasing exponentially. Particularly when you take tanking or refilling on orbit into account, and taking the idea of establishing a self-sustaining base on Mars or the Moon or elsewhere, seriously, you need ultimately thousands of ships and tens of thousands of retanking or refilling operations, which means you need many launches per day. You really need to be looking, in terms of how many landings are occurring, you need to be looking at your watch, not your calendar. So while this is quite a high launch rate that we're talking about here, by conventional standards, it's still a very small launch rate compared to what will ultimately be needed. But just for those who are unfamiliar with how many orbital launches occur every year, it's approximately 60 orbital launches occur per year, which means if SpaceX does do something like 30 launches next year, it'll be approximately half of all orbital launches that occur on Earth. The next thing is, a key technology is automated rendezvous and docking. So in order to retank or refill the spaceship in orbit, you have to be able to rendezvous and dock with the spaceship with very high precision and transfer propellant. So that's one of the things that we've perfected with Dragon. Dragon 1 will do an automated rendezvous and docking without any pilot control to the space station. Dragon 1 currently uses the Canadarm for the final placement onto the space station. Dragon 2, which launches next year, will not need to use the Canadarm. So Dragon 2 will directly dock with the space station. And it can do so with zero human intervention. You just press go, and it will dock. Dragon has also allowed us to perfect heat shield technology. So when you enter at high velocity, you'll melt almost anything. The reason meteors don't reach Earth is they melt or disintegrate before they reach the ground, unless they're very big. So you have to have a sophisticated heat shield technology that can withstand unbelievably high temperatures, and that's what we've been perfecting with Dragon, and also a key part of any planet colonizing system. Next slide. So Falcon 1, this is where we started out. A lot of people really only heard of SpaceX relatively recently. So they may think, say, Falcon 9 and Dragon just instantly appeared, and that's how it always was. But it wasn't. We started off with just a few people who really didn't know how to make rockets. And the reason I ended up being the chief engineer or chief designer was not because I wanted to, it's because I couldn't hire anyone. Nobody good would join. So ended up being that by default. And I messed up the first three launches. The first three launches failed. Unfortunately, the fourth launch, which was that was the last money that we had for Falcon 1, the fourth launch worked, or that would have been it for SpaceX. But fate liked us that day. So the fourth launch worked. And it's interesting, today is the 9th anniversary of that launch. So I didn't realize that until I was told that just earlier today, but it's a very emotional day, actually. But Falcon 1 was quite a small rocket. When we were doing Falcon 1, we were really trying to figure out what is the smallest useful payload that we could get to orbit. and thought, okay, something around half a ton to orbit would be able to launch, that can launch a decent-sized small satellite to low Earth orbit, and that's why we sized Falcon 1. But it's really quite small compared to Falcon 9. So Falcon 9, particularly when you factor in payload, Falcon 9 is many times more, it's sort of on the order of 30 times more payload than Falcon 1. And Falcon 9 has reuse of the primary booster, which is the most expensive part of the rocket, and hopefully soon reuse of the fairing, the big nose cone at the front. So we think we can probably get to something like somewhere between 70 and 80% reusability with the Falcon 9 system. And hopefully towards the end of this year, we'll be launching Falcon Heavy, which is, Falcon Heavy ended up being a much more complex program than we thought. It sounds easy. Let's show Falcon Heavy, actually. It sounds like it should be easy because it's 2 first stages of Falcon 9 strapped on as boosters. It's actually not. We had to redesign almost everything except the upper stage in order to take the increased loads. So Falcon Heavy ended up being much more a new vehicle than we realized. So it took us a lot longer to get it done. But the boosters have all now been tested, and they're on their way to the Cape Canaveral. And we are now beginning serious development of BFR. So you can see that the payload difference is quite dramatic. BFR in fully reusable configuration, without any orbital refueling, we expect to have a payload capability of 150 tons to low Earth orbit. So, and that compares to about 30 for Falcon Heavy, which is partially reusable. Where this really makes a tremendous difference is in the cost, which I'll come to in some of the later slides. So let's go to the next slide. And by the way, so with BFR, you can get a sense of scale by looking at the tiny person there. It's really quite a big vehicle. Main body diameter is about 9 meters or 30 feet. And it consists of the booster is lifted by 31 Raptor engines that produce a thrust of about 5,400 tons, lifting a 4,400 ton vehicle straight up. So then, just the basics about the ship: 48-meter length. Dry mass we're expecting to be about 85 tons. Technically, our design says 75 tons, but inevitably there's mass growth. And that ship will contain 1,100 tons propellant with a an ascent design of 150 tons and a return mass of 50. So you can think of this as essentially combining the upper stage of the rocket with Dragon. It's like your Falcon 9 upper stage and Dragon were combined. So I'll go into each of these items in detail, but you've got obviously the engine section in the rear, the propellant tanks in the middle, and then a large payload bay in the front. And that payload bay is actually 8 stories tall. In fact, you can fit a whole stack of Falcon 1 rockets in the payload bay. Compared to the design I showed last time, you'll see that there is a small delta wing at the back of the rocket. The reason for that is in order to expand the mission envelope of the BFR spaceship. Depending on whether you're landing or you're entering a planet or a moon that has no atmosphere, a thin atmosphere, or a dense atmosphere, and depending on whether you're re-entering with no payload in the front, a small payload, or a heavy payload, you have to balance the rocket out as it's coming in. And so the delta wing at the back, which also includes a split flap for pitch and roll control, allows us to control the pitch angle despite having a wide range of payloads in the nose and a wide range of atmospheric densities. So we tried to avoid having the delta wing, but it was necessary in order to generalize the capability of the spaceship such that it could land anywhere in the solar system. So let's look at a couple of things in detail. So the cargo area has a pressurized volume of 825 cubic meters. This also is greater than the pressurized area of an A380. So really it's capable of carrying a tremendous amount of payload. In a Mars transit configuration, since you'd be taking 3 months in a really good scenario, but maybe as much as 6 months, some number of months, single-digit months, you probably want a cabin, not just a seat. So the Mars transit configuration consists of 40 cabins, and it sort of depends on, you could conceivably have 5 or 6 people per cabin if you really wanted to cram people in. But I think mostly we would expect to see 2 to 3 people per cabin. And so normally about 100 people per flight to Mars. And then there's a central storage area, galley, and a solar storm shelter, entertainment area, and I think probably a good situation for at least BFR version 1. Then going to the main body of the vehicle, the center body area. This is where the propellant is located. And this is subcooled methane and oxygen. So as you chill the methane and oxygen below its liquid point, you get a fairly meaningful density increase. You get on the order of 10 to 12% density increase, which makes quite a big difference for the propellant load. So we're expecting to carry 240 tons of CH4 and 860 tons of oxygen. In the fuel tank are header tanks. So when you come in for a landing, your orientation may change quite significantly, so you can't have the propellant just slushing around all over in the main tanks. You have to have the header tanks that can feed the main engines with precision. So that's what you see immersed in the fuel tank. Then the engine section. So the ship engine section consists of four vacuum Raptor engines and 2 sea-level engines. So all 6 engines are capable of gimbaling. The engines with the high expansion ratio have a relatively smaller gimbal area or gimbal range and a slower gimbal rate. The 2 center engines have a very high gimbal range and can gimbal very quickly. And you can land the ship with either one of the 2 center engines. So when you come in for a landing, it will light both engines, but if one of the center engines fails at any point, it will be able to land successfully with the other engine. And then within each engine, there's a great deal of redundancy. So we want the landing risk to be as close to 0 as possible. And there's some basic stats about the engines. The sea level engines are about a 330 ISP at sea level. the upper stage engine is 375. Now, this is version 1. So I think over time, there's potential to increase that specific impulse by 5 to 10 seconds. And as I was mentioning, also increase the chamber pressure by 50 bar or so. And then for refilling, where you just saw the two shifts would actually mate at the rear section. They would use the same mating interface that they use to connect to the booster on liftoff. So we'd reuse that mating interface and reuse the propellant fill lines that are used when the booster is, when the ship is on the booster. And then to transfer propellant, it becomes very simple. Use control thrusters to accelerate in the direction that you want to empty. So, if you accelerate in this direction, propellant goes that way, and you transfer the propellant very easily into from the tanker to the ship. So going to rocket capability. This gives you sort of a rough sense of rocket capability, starting off at the low end with the Falcon 1 at a half ton, and then going up to BFR at 150. So I think it's important to note that the BFR has more capability than Saturn V, even with full reusability. But here's the really important fundamental point. Let's look at the launch cost. The order reverses. Now, at first glance, this may seem ridiculous, but it's not. The same is true of aircraft. If you bought, say, a small single-engine turboprop aircraft, that would be $1.5 to $2 million. To charter a 747 from California to Australia is $500,000, there and back. The single-engine turboprop can't even get to Australia. So a fully reusable system, a fully reusable giant aircraft like a 747 costs a third as much as an expendable tiny aircraft. In one case, you have to build an entire aircraft. In the other case, you just have to refuel something. So it's really crazy that we build these sophisticated rockets and then crash them every time we fly. This is mad. I can't emphasize how profound this is and how important reusability is. And often I'll be told, but you could get more payload if you made it expendable. And so yes, you could also get more payload from an aircraft if you got rid of the landing gear and the flaps and just parachute it out when you got to your destination. But that would be crazy, and you would sell 0 aircraft. So reusability is absolutely fundamental. Now I want to talk about the value of orbital refilling. This is also extremely important. So if you just fly BFR to orbit and don't do any refilling, it's pretty good. You'll get 150 tons to low Earth orbit and have no fuel to go anywhere else. However, if you send up tankers and refill in orbit, you can refill the tanks all the way to the top and get 150 tons all the way to Mars. And if the tanker has high reuse capability, then you're just paying for the cost of propellant. And the cost of oxygen is extremely low, and the cost of methane is extremely low. So if that's all you're dealing with, the cost of refilling your spaceship on orbit is tiny, and you can get 150 tons all the way to Mars. So automated rendezvous and docking and refilling, absolutely fundamental. So then getting back to the question of how do we pay for this system, This was really, as I said, quite a profound, I wouldn't call it a breakthrough, but realization that if we can build a system that cannibalizes our own products, makes our own products redundant, then all of the resources, which are quite enormous, that are used for Falcon 9 Heavy and Dragon, can be applied to one system. Some of our customers are conservative, and they want to see BFR fly several times before they're comfortable launching on it. So what we plan to do is to build ahead and have a stock of Falcon 9 and Dragon vehicles, so that customers can be comfortable if they want to use the old rocket, the old spacecraft. They can do that because we'll have a bunch in stock. But all of our resources will then turn towards building BFR. And we believe that we can do this with the revenue that we receive for launching satellites and for servicing the space station. So going into the satellites portion, the size of this being a 9-meter diameter vehicle is a huge enabler for new satellites. We can actually send something that is almost 9 meters in diameter to orbit. So for example, if you want to do a new Hubble, you could send a mirror that has 10 times the surface area of the current Hubble as a single unit. It doesn't have to unfold or anything. And or you can send a large number of small satellites. You can do whatever you like. You can actually also go around and, if you wanted to collect old satellites or clean up space debris, you can just use the sort of chomper over there and go around and collect satellites or collect space debris if you want. So that may be something we have to do in the future. But that fairing would open up and retract and come back down. So it enables launching of Earth satellites that are significantly larger than anything we've done before, or significantly more satellites at a time than anything that's been done before. It's also intended to be able to service the space station. I know it looks a little big relative to the space station, but the shuttle also looked big, so it'll work. Looks a little outsized, but it'll work. So it'll be capable of doing what Dragon does today in terms of transporting cargo, and what Dragon 2 will do in terms of transporting crew and cargo. So it can do the space station servicing. It can also go obviously much further than that, like, for example, the moon. Based on the calculations we've done, we can actually do lunar surface missions with no propellant production on the surface of the moon. So if we do a high elliptic parking orbit for the ship and retank in a high elliptic orbit, we can go all the way to the moon and back with no local propellant production on the moon. So I think that would enable the creation of Moon Base Alpha, or some sort of lunar base. Yeah, it's quite captivating. So you can also see, for example, how do you transfer cargo from the cargo bay down to the ground is a crane. It's not very complicated. Yeah, but so this will enable the creation of a lunar base. And it's 2017. I mean, we should have a lunar base by now. What the hell's going on? And then, of course, Mars, becoming a multi-planet species. Beats the hell out of being a single-planet species. So, so we'd start off by sending a mission to Mars, where it would be obviously just landing on rocky ground or dusty ground. And it's the same approach that I mentioned before, which is you send the spaceship up to orbit, you retank it or refill it until it has full tanks, and it travels to Mars, lands on Mars. For Mars, you will need local propellant production. But Mars has a CO2 atmosphere and plenty of water ice. That gives you CO2 and H2O, so you can make, therefore, CH4 and O2 using the Sabatier process, or some, probably Sabatier process. And I should mention that long term, this can also be done on Earth. So sometimes I get some sort of criticism for why are you using combustion in rockets and you have electric cars? I'm like, well, there isn't some way to make an electric rocket. I wish there was. But in the long term, you can use solar power to extract CO2 from the atmosphere, combine it with water, and produce fuel and oxygen for the rocket. So the same thing that we would do on Mars, we could do on Earth in the long term. But that's essentially what happens. Similar to the moon, you land on Mars. The tricky thing with Mars is we do need to build a propellant depot to refill the tanks and return to Earth. But because Mars has lower gravity than Earth, you do not need a booster. So you can go all the way from the surface of Mars to the surface of Earth just using the ship. Albeit you need to go to a max payload number of about 20 to 50 tons for the return journey to work. But it's a single stage all the way back to Earth. And I'll show you so this is a true physics simulation. This will last about a minute. So you come in, you're entering very quickly, going 7.5 kilometers a second. For Mars, there will be some ablation of the heat shield. So it's just like a sort of brake pad wearing away. It is a multi-use heat shield, but unlike for Earth operations, it's coming in hot enough that you will see some wear of the heat shield. But because Mars has an atmosphere, albeit not a particularly dense one, you can remove almost all the energy aerodynamically. And we've proven out supersonic retropropulsion many times with Falcon 9, so we feel very comfortable about that. This is because it's sort of, you can see it's sort of a mesh system. It's not meant to be sort of particularly pretty because it's just trying to simulate the physics of it. But the size of the cone gives you a rough approximation for how much thrust the engines are producing. That's not a typo. Although it is aspirational. So we've already started building the system. The tooling for the main tanks has been ordered. The facility is being built. We will start construction of the first ship around the second quarter of next year, so in about 6 to 9 months, we should start building the first ship. I feel fairly confident that we can complete the ship and be ready for a launch in about 5 years. 5 years seems like a long time to me. Yeah. And the area under the curve of resources over that period of time should enable this time frame to be met. But if not this time frame, I think pretty soon thereafter. But that's our goal, is to try to make the 2022 Mars rendezvous. The Earth-Mars synchronization happens roughly every 2 years. So every 2 years, there's an opportunity for to fly to Mars. So then in 2024, we want to try to fly 4 ships, 2 of which would be crewed, and 2 of which, two cargo and two crew. The goal of these initial missions is to find the best source of water. That's for the first mission. And then the second mission, the goal is to build the propellant plant. So we should, particularly with 6 ships, there have plenty of landed mass to construct the propellant depot, which will consist of a large array of solar panels, very large array, and then everything necessary to mine and refine water, and then draw the CO2 out of the atmosphere, and then create and store deep cryo CH4 and O2. Then build up the base, starting mostly with one ship, then multiple ships, then start building out the city, then making the city bigger, even bigger. And over time, terraforming Mars and making it really a nice place to be. Thanks. Give me I think that's quite a beautiful picture. And on the prior slide, it's interesting to note that on Mars, dawn and dusk are blue, and it's the sky. So the sky is blue in dawn and dusk, and red during the day. It's the opposite of Earth. And but there's something else. If you build a ship that's capable of going to Mars, well, what if you take that same ship and go from one place to another on Earth? So we looked at that, and the results are quite interesting. Let's take a look at that. Traveling at 27,000 kilometers an hour, or roughly 18,000 miles an hour. This is where the propulsive landing becomes very important to get it right. So most of what people consider to be long-distance trips would be completed in less than half an hour, which is... So the great thing about going to space is there's no friction. So once you're out of the atmosphere, you will go, it will be smooth as silk, no turbulence, nothing. There's no weather, there's no atmosphere. And you can get to most long-distance places, like I said, in less than half an hour. And if we're building this thing to go to the Moon and Mars, then why not go to other places on Earth as well? All right, thank you.
Today marks the beginning of yet another incredible journey from Axiom Space and SpaceX as we lead the way in expanding access to low Earth orbit for all of humanity. You are looking at a live shot of the Falcon 9 rocket and Dragon spacecraft that will carry the next 4 private astronauts to the International Space Station in just over 3 hours from now. To everyone around the globe tuning in, hello and welcome to the live launch webcast for the Axiom Mission 2, or as we call it, AX2. My name is Duke Brady, and I'm a multimedia specialist with Axiom Space based out of Houston, Texas.
And I'm Kate Tice, Quality Systems Engineering Manager here at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. Duke, it's so good to have you and the Axiom teams with us today.
Very excited.
Today's mission is a pretty cool milestone for SpaceX. AX2 is our 10th human spaceflight mission overall and our 9th human spaceflight mission to the orbiting laboratory since we started flying people back in 2020 with NASA's Demo 2 mission. It also marks SpaceX's second human spaceflight mission this year, following the NASA Crew 6 launch in March to the International Space Station. The AX2 crew will be joining Expedition 69 and Dragon Endeavour, all still currently on station. As we count down today's scheduled liftoff, we'll be keeping you updated on the status of the crew, launch vehicle, systems, weather, and all the technical aspects of launch. And in between, we'll be taking you behind the scenes of the AX2 mission, what led up to this moment, and what to expect during the course of this 10-day mission.
For Axiom Space, this mission builds on the incredible success of our first all-private astronaut crew to the ISS last year, the AX-1 mission, and takes us one step closer to building and operating Axiom Station, the world's first private space station, which is currently under construction. AX-2 is the second of four missions SpaceX will launch for Axiom Space, and today's launch is the culmination of years of effort by teams at Axiom Space to expand the opportunities of private citizens and sovereign nations around the world so that they can partake in the incredible science, research, and STEAM education-related activities in low Earth orbit. In fact, we just recently announced Axiom Space Access Program, which is designed to enable countries to realize long-term economic and scientific value in microgravity. So if you want to fly to space, or if your organization wants to conduct research and manufacturing efforts in microgravity, we have the teams that can help you develop your program. We believe that the commercial effort and presence in low Earth orbit has a duty to expand research and manufacturing capabilities conducted in space for the benefit of all humankind. And that's a big part of what makes today's mission so exciting. Two members of our crew are citizens of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, or KSA. They're Rayana Barnawi, the first ever Saudi female to fly to space, and Ali Al-Karni, a captain in the Royal Saudi Air Force. Together, they are following in the footsteps of Sultan bin Salman Al Said, who flew aboard Space Shuttle Discovery in 1985. But they also represent the first Saudi national astronaut class, which we had the honor of helping select and train in preparation for this moment.
Really exciting stuff. Now, turning our attention to the crew, they are suiting up inside right behind those doors that you see there. That's SpaceX's Falcon support building.
Displays are configured for crew ingress, and advanced team work is complete and ready for crew arrival on schedule.
All right, just a call out there from our SpaceX core, letting all teams know on countdown that we're tracking on time. So that's great news to hear.
Great.
So yeah, they are getting suited up right now in preparation for their liftoff from that launch pad right there. That, of course, is the historic Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Once they arrive at the space station, the crew will spend 8 days living and working on board before returning to Earth.
Yes, and over the course of that 10-day journey, the AX2 crew will conduct a wide range of research, including several experiments that will help us understand more than ever about how our human bodies respond to microgravity. The data they'll collect will be critical to furthering human exploration of space, and along the way will inspire dreamers, thinkers, and explorers to follow in their footsteps.
Every human spaceflight crew is unique, with each astronaut bringing their own background and expertise to the mission. With that, let's introduce you to the AX2 crew.
The AX2 mission is commanded by retired NASA astronaut Peggy Whitson. Born and raised in Beaconsfield, Iowa, she was inspired, along with the world, when we watched the Apollo 11 crew walk on the moon. She has since become the most experienced American astronaut and one of the most decorated. Whitson flew 3 long-duration missions to the ISS and has more cumulative time in space, 665 days, than any U.S. astronaut and more than any woman in the world. She has conducted 10 spacewalks with over 60 hours out in the vacuum of space and has performed hundreds of research experiments on board the ISS. Not only is she the commander for this mission, but Peggy also serves as the director of human spaceflight for Axiom Space.
The pilot for AX-2 is private astronaut John Schaffner. Born in Alaska and raised in Kentucky, Schaffner is a STEAM education advocate, business pioneer, and lifelong space enthusiast. A pilot since the age of 17, John has over 8,500 flight hours holding commercial, instrument, single-engine, and multi-engine ratings in land and sea aircraft, as well as helicopter. He also holds ratings in former military jets and high-performance radial engine aircraft. As an athlete, John has years of competitive experience in water skiing, cycling, whitewater kayaking, hand gliding, skydiving, and base jumping. John trained as the AX-1 backup pilot, and during this mission plans to invest a lot of his time in STEAM education activities aimed at empowering educators and inspiring teachers.
Representing the Saudi Space Commission and serving as a mission specialist, Ali Al-Karni was born in March 1992 in Sabt al-Alea, Saudi Arabia. Ali is fluent in English as well as his native Arabic. And as an Air Force captain, Ali has 12 years of experience flying on multiple aircraft, primarily on the F-15SA in service to the Royal Saudi Air Force. Ali graduated with a Bachelor of Aerospace Science degree in 2013 from King Faisal Air Academy in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Also representing the Saudi Space Commission and serving as a mission specialist, Rayana Barnawi was born in September 1988 in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Rayana has a master's degree in biomedical sciences from Al Faisal University in Riyadh, and also has a bachelor's degree in biomedical sciences from Otago University in Dunedin, New Zealand. If that wasn't enough knowledge, she is fluent in English and Turkish, as well as native Arabic. She has been a research lab technician since 2013 in the Stem Cell and Tissue Re-engineering Program at King Faisal Specialist Hospital and Research Center located in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
There you have it, the AX-2 crew. This really is an amazing group of people who have spent months preparing for this moment. We are already beyond proud of them and can't wait to see them in space.
At the moment, they should be making their final preparations inside our Falcon support building, and then soon they'll be making their first public appearance, fully suited and ready to fly. They should be walking out of those doors here in just a couple of minutes.
Yes, absolutely. But, you know, as excited as we are for this crew and their launch, there have been entire communities of loved ones, both friends and family, around the world who have been looking forward to this moment for quite some time, actually. So to Peggy, John, Ali, and Rayana, here are a few words from those who love you to help mark this occasion.
Hey, John, just wanted to take a second and give you a big shout out and tell you how proud we are that you're representing Middlesbrough and all of us on your mission to the International Space Station. We want to say thank you for allowing us to be part of your experience and taking us beyond the crater.
John, have fun, Godspeed.
Have fun.
Going to outer space. I am so fired up for you. You have no idea. Wish you the best of luck, and please, please do send me a postcard from up there.
Congratulations. I'm so excited for you, John. Woo! Excellent. Good job.
Wish you the best of luck. I don't know who these people are, but they will also want to wish you a safe and excellent mission. Enjoy and say hi to the boys from all of us.
Yes. Bye.
Good luck.
Day one. Tell the skies. A new star is rising. An angel with a beauty ever so shining. A blessing that showers and glow. Go out there and be the light.
Such a sweet insight into all that support and all those friends and family.
Super touching.
That's great. The entire Axiom Space team and all of our partners truly appreciate and are humbled by the worldwide interest and support for this historic flight today. As the crew wraps up their preparations inside the Falcon support building, let's provide a bit of an overview of the operations for today. It's been a pretty busy morning already for the AX2 crew. They woke up at about 9 a.m. Eastern, had their first medical checks of the day, and then shared a meal with their quarantine support staff. At 12:20 Eastern, they departed the quarantine facility and flew to Kennedy Space Center for a special moment with family and friends at the tarmac of the KSC launch and landing facility. This event also marked the formal handoff of the crew to SpaceX for today's launch.
Around T-minus 3 hours and 50 minutes, the crew arrived at the suit-up room and began putting their suits on. Right around then, we also had the crew pre-launch briefing, and that's where we share weather and launch details and basically give them their tablets, which they get to bring with them during flight. And all of that brings us to where we currently are, suit up. We are waiting for them to make their appearance, but yeah, there's been a lot of activity.
Absolutely. We know at about T-minus 3 hours and 25 minutes, the crew began suiting up, and once that process is complete, they'll exit the Falcon support building and get into their Teslas. We will have 2 astronauts in each of the Teslas, led by a support vehicle.
After that, it's a short drive to the launch pad, and once they arrive, the crew will ascend the fixed service structure in an elevator up to the 255-foot level. That's the structure you see there on your screen to the right of the rocket. The crew will then take the stairs up the last 10 feet, where they will stop and make one final phone call before walking down that crew access arm to the White Room. The White Room is their last stop before climbing into the spacecraft, a process known as crew ingress. During ingress, the SpaceX team will run a series of checks to ensure the suits, seats, and vehicle interactions are all functioning properly. After all the vehicle and crew checkouts are completed, the SpaceX closeout team will close Dragon's side hatch and depart the pad. At about T-minus 40 minutes, the crew access arm will retract away, followed by the arming of the launch escape system. Once the arm is retracted and the escape system is armed, propellant loading will begin on Falcon 9. At T-minus 5 minutes, Dragon will be configured for what we call terminal count. This is when Dragon's onboard computers take control of the spacecraft. And finally, the moment we're all waiting for, T0, Dragon and Falcon will lift off from pad 39A. Roughly 12 minutes after liftoff, Falcon will separate from Falcon 9's second stage and spend the next 16 hours making its way to the International Space Station.
Good afternoon. I'm John Innsbrucker, Falcon 9 Principal Integration Engineer here at SpaceX. We're currently at T-minus 3 hours, 13 minutes, and 18 seconds, and everything looks good for an on-time launch later today. Now, as Kate mentioned, the crew received a weather briefing just at T-minus 4 hours. Now, the good news is the probability of violating launch conditions has decreased since yesterday. We're down to only a 25% chance of a violation today. The main constraint we're tracking is upper altitude anvil clouds. The ground level winds are not a concern. We're up to about maybe 17, 18 miles an hour. The upper level wind shear also is expected to be low, but as we get later in the afternoon here in Florida, the upper altitude winds could blow some of the clouds inland over the launch site in the ascent trajectory. We are, of course, tracking weather all along the ascent and recovery corridors today, and we'll keep you posted as we continue to monitor those environments. But currently, ascent weather looks good. Now, at pad 39A, as you can see on your monitor, Falcon 9 is powered up. Engine checkouts were performed overnight. Pressurization of the gas storage tanks on the Falcon 9 completed about T-minus 4.5 hours. Now, at T-minus 2 hours, Falcon will begin its final checks for launch. There will also be a communication check with the crew coming up at about T-minus 1 hour and 55 minutes. And of course, propellant loading will begin at T-minus 35 minutes. Now, as with all of our launches to the International Space Station, we have an instantaneous launch window at 5:37 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, or 21 hours, 37 minutes Universal Time. If for whatever reason we are not able to launch today, our next opportunity will be just under 24 hours later on Monday, May 22nd.
All right, at this point in time, we're at T-minus 3 hours, 11 minutes, and 20 seconds. At this moment, we are roughly 5 minutes before the crew is expected to walk out of the Falcon support building, after which they will hop in the Teslas and head up to pad 39A, which you see there on your screen. As a reminder, this is SpaceX's 10th mission flying people since 2020, which is incredible to think about, and our second of 4 missions for Axiom.
Right, very exciting for us. Well, speaking of milestones and special moments, I wanted to take a moment to highlight a tradition we started at Axiom Space when the AX-1 crew went on their mission and has continued with this crew. A few weeks ago, just before the crew headed to quarantine, we held our Stepping into Space ceremony. Teams across the Axiom family gathered at our Axiom engineering facility and joined with the AX-2 crew to celebrate not just the ending of their training, but also that important pivot to what we call the operational stage of their mission. Here is a quick recap of that moment.
We're about to launch to the International Space Station for this incredible mission. This is a delineation. Everything before was training and preparation, and now we're in operation.
AX-2 represents a major step for us. Our last mission was 3 individuals who flew and did remarkable research on orbit. Now we have a combination of individual and a country that's going to fly with us. I mean, this is what we're all about. This is the global outreach that this company has. We're making history. Here they are, the AX-2 crew.
Wow, we are really, really excited to be here today. I think it's so important that you're here because without you and all your contributions, all your hard work, your dedication, we wouldn't be up here ready for spaceflight, and we are.
To continue to celebrate this moment, one of the things that we did a scan of the right foot of each of these astronauts, an homage to the Apollo program and the images that you see from the first launch of the moon. And there's a plaque.
This is only the first class of Saudi astronauts back home, so we're just looking for more to join.
That little voice inside you is real. Listen to it.
My father used to share with me a part of a poet he likes. It says, "He who fears to climb mountains will forever live among pits." I would say to everyone, just find your mountain, keep climbing. It's not going to be an easy ride. You might stumble and fall, but always have the passion and the thought of what it's going to feel like once you are on top of the mountain and looking down. I'm sure it's going to be an amazing view and experience.
Live outside your comfort zone. You're capable of so much more than you might believe. So try things that you think you might not succeed at because you'll find out that you really are much more capable.
One more round of applause for our crew for the AX-2 mission. Woo! Go AX-2!
What an amazing tradition that you guys have started. I love that.
It's so great to see that Axiom family specifically come together and support this crew, get their big final send-off for all of that preparation they've been doing.
Now, we are just moments away from seeing the crew for the first time today. This is a live view outside of our Falcon support building located...
Core on countdown, suit donning and checkouts are complete. Stand by for walkout. We're on schedule.
All right. Almost perfectly on cue there. That was the SpaceX core calling out on our countdown nets to let the integrated teams know that all of our crew members are in their suits. They went through the appropriate checks and fit-ups, and we should be seeing them walk out these doors any minute now.
I love the serendipity of that moment. That's going to be the rest of the day, right? Everything's right on cue.
Yeah, I like it.
This is certainly a big moment for them. That moment at Axiom where we have this stepping to space send-off is a big one, going from that training to operational phase. But this might be the next big one, the next big step for their mission.
Now, we have seen the crew in their suits, in the days leading up to launch. We had a dress rehearsal a couple days ago. I guess that was Friday. And so we've seen the crew walk through and rehearse all of this, but this will be the first time that we're seeing them on the day they get to go to space.
I have to imagine it feels completely different But I also think maybe their training has made this sort of normal. They're in the mode, they have the muscle memory at this point. Some things familiar, but some things have to also be a little heightened today.
Absolutely. Now there we can see the 3 Teslas that will take them up a short distance. It's a little bit less than a half mile from those doors to the elevator doors at the base of pad 39A. We will see Commander Peggy Whitson and pilot John Schaffner together in one of those black Teslas, while the mission specialist Ali Al-Karni and Rayana Barnawi will be partnered in another. So like we said, it's a short drive. They could walk it, but I've done that walk. It's not great, especially, it's pretty warm in Florida already and a little humid. So we want to keep everybody cool and comfortable. So they're going to hop in these vehicles and head up.
Launch director and countdown net. The crew is beginning their walkout to drive to the pad at this time.
All right, it sounds like we should be seeing our AX2 crew any moment now, coming through those double doors that you see on your screen.
Now, because we here in this location, we are inside the blast area, so no family or media are allowed here, but certainly an emotionally significant moment, and we're...
Aha! And here they are, our AX2 crew. This is very exciting. This is our first live look at the AX2 crew suited up for their mission to the International Space Station. On your far left, you see Rayana Barnawi, followed by Peggy Whitson, then John Schaffner, then Ali Al-Karni. Wow, incredible. We've got a great group wave there. The team unifying for their first big step before they get in those Teslas to ride to their vehicle.
I love this view that we have here inside the vehicles. We actually get to really get an up-close look at the excitement on their faces. Right now, they are, of course, going to buckle in, and they're also going to plug in the umbilicals, the umbilicals that flow cool nitrogen-oxygen mixture air into the suit. So it helps keep them comfortable as they are making that short distance up to the pad.
Right, because as you said, they are in Florida. It can be a little warm and a little humid there. So any way to make this crew comfortable is going to be better. It's going to help them be in the right mindset and appreciate this moment. You see those gull-wing doors are closing now. I do love this camera view. It reminds me of like a auto karaoke or taxi karaoke, whatever that was. And that reminds me, they do have a special playlist that I think they're playing right now for their short drive. Don't think we'll get to hear.
It looks like fist bumps and maybe some dancing to the music as well.
Yeah.
That's our Commander Peggy Whitson on the far left and pilot John Schaffner there to her left, our right center, yes. I guess you could say. And then mission specialists Ali Al-Karni and Rayana Barnawi on the right-hand side.
What a great moment there where you saw each pair of crew members sort of grasping hands, doing fist bumps, so kind of having another level of realization for this step in their mission. It's so wonderful to see that. Love to see the teamwork too. This is a very special moment for Peggy, but thinking about her, she actually had her first mission to space on STS-11, which launched from this very pad 39A on June 5th, 2002, just shy of 21 years ago. She would have been transported out on this very stretch of road and ridden the same set of elevators to reach the Space Shuttle Endeavour. Now today, just everything else is basically new. The suits, the rocket, obviously, all of those things are new, but it's pretty fascinating to think of this throwback. And actually, here's a photo of then rookie astronaut Peggy Whitson.
Wow. I love that.
That's incredible. There she is in the White Room. And actually, as this crew rides out to their rocket, their commander, Peggy Whitson, wanted to share a special message with them and to each of you who have helped make today possible.
As I get ready for spaceflight, I want to say thank you to everyone who's contributed. I know there's so many of you out there that are helping to make each and every piece come together. The engineers that design things, the welders that put things together, the instructors that teach me how to operate this really very complex piece of hardware and how it's all integrated together by all the software engineers. And then we have a ground team that's helping us. And we have ground teams all over the world that are helping us be successful on our missions. And every one of you does a tremendous job to make spaceflight possible. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
What a fantastic message from Peggy Whitson, from STS-111 to AX-2. What a career, what phenomenal set of achievements.
You know, I remember the day, excuse me, that Axiom announced that she would be commanding this mission, and it was such an incredible moment because she really is one of the legends of NASA, and I was just so excited to see that she was going to be flying in a SpaceX Dragon. So what an exciting opportunity.
Absolutely.
Once again, those live views coming to us from inside the Teslas as the crew members of AX-2 are pulling up to their rocket. They're now getting closer and closer to Pad 39A, where Falcon 9 and our Dragon Freedom capsule await to take them to the International Space Station. Now, fun fact about the pad here, those elevator doors, excuse me, that we see here at the base of the fixed service structure, the core of this structure is original to the pad from the shuttle and Apollo days. So it is safe to say that when Peggy ascends one of these elevators, that in her shuttle days, she was using the same, you know, the core.
Crew have arrived at the pad.
There's that call out, just letting everybody know on countdown that the crew has arrived to the pad, as we can see.
We have Peggy Whitson and John Schaffner. They've exited their vehicles first.
This is one of my favorite moments that we have during the launch sequences. Right there it is.
Lean back.
The lean back, and you know, they have to. The vehicle stands so tall there on top of the launch mount.
We'll probably say this throughout the broadcast, but they've seen the rocket before. They've been in it for dry drafts. It's got to look different on today, this day of launch.
Another fun fact about those elevators, the levels of the fixed service structure are not marked by the level number that it is. It's the height in feet that they are ascending to. So the AX-2 crew is going up to the 255-foot level, and they will ride up, and that then after they exit will take a short 10-foot stairs up to the next level. The difference being is basically the difference in height between the shuttle access arm and the Falcon 9 access arm. Beautiful view there of the backside of the transporter erector. That is the structure that we use for integration of the vehicle, as well as transportation of the integrated vehicle to the launch pad. And of course, we roll it up horizontally and then lift it to the vertical launch position, you know, within, depending on the mission, days or hours prior to liftoff.
There you see Ali and Rihanna doing an excellent lean back for that view. You can see the excitement, hands clapping.
As we mentioned before, they have rehearsed this previously in our dry dress rehearsal on Friday. They suited up, they rode out to the pad, they got in the spacecraft. So they have technically done all of this once before because, you know, in spaceflight, we love to rehearse and practice everything. And really, like, the moment for them to look up and realize that these are their last steps on Earth for a few days must be such an incredible moment. You know, the day that they actually get to go to space. It's a moment that they've all trained for a very, very long time for.
Absolutely. So exciting. You see now in your screen, that's Peggy and John. I believe they're using the phone to make their phone calls before launch, the last calls.
Now, for those of you looking at the view here and wondering what those arrows are for, those arrows point the direction towards safety in the event that the crew needs to leave the area quickly. They just look down and they're able to follow those chevrons over to the escape pods, basically. They are baskets on a zip line that allow them to leave the tower if necessary. It's a little counterintuitive because they're walking opposite of the arrows, which of course makes sense because they're going to space, not away.
Rihanna and Ali have got to the top of the stairs, so they will have their turn to use the phone for their last calls.
That's a pretty cool view there. We see them, they're just in the fixed service structure tower, not yet going across the crew access arm. That access arm, of course, is what connects the tower to the launch vehicle. We should be able to get a really great view of them as they go down the access arm, but looks like everybody's enjoying the view, as they should be.
Yeah.
And as they await their opportunity to make their final phone call.
Speaking of paths, this is the last section of their path before they ingress the vehicle, but Ali and Rihanna